Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And here's your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
And going forward from here, there are going to be lots of spoilers for the Crowns of Nyaxia series, because tonight we have an interview with the one, the only Carissa Broadbent. So, Pretty exciting. So here is your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
All right. So tonight we have a drink of the episode that's a little bit special because we have the queen herself in the house, but we do have a drink. This is tonight's drink. Okay. We've got a little festive cup here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it's got some little ghosts on it, and it's like a little glass coffee mug. So it's clear, and it's got a lime wedge on the top, and I'm calling this Nyaxia's Nightcap. And I just imagine Nyaxia in her little section of her god area, her little house, so be it, with the galaxies roving by, and her just like sitting up here drinking this drink. And this drink is a weird one, Michelle. It has an odd mix. It went viral. I knew I was going to have to make it at some point, and I thought because of the darkness of the color, it's like nearly black, but it's like a little bit not. It's like purpley black, and the reason is it's because it is half an ounce of fresh lime juice and then equal parts Coke Zero and red wine blend, which sounds terrible, actually, in my mind. I thought this would be horrific, so naturally I had to make it for the show. And also, because Nyaxia is borderline horrific, I needed to have a drink that was odd enough that embodied her, and also might be a teaser to a question we might ask the queen herself, Carissa Broadbent, later in this episode. Therefore, we have what's actually called and known as in Spain, it's a summer beverage. It's called the Calimocho is what this is actually called. And it's hugely popular in that region, and people drink these all the time. But yeah, it's equal parts red wine and Coke Zero, or a Diet Coke of choice. Maybe I don't drink Pepsi, but maybe some of y'all do. You could try that. I, thought this would be bad, and it's actually really good.
Okay.
You're like dumbfounded. You're like, what do I say after that?
Well, there are a lot of new things coming out with like mixing Coke. Like, have you heard of dirty Cokes?
Yes.
Mixed in with like
dirty soda
cream and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
with Dr.
That's a move.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, why if people use like cream or, creamer or whatever with Coke, why not wine?
Yeah. So, one key thing that I read when making this is like, you don't want to be using your fancy Malbecs and stuff. Okay. Like, that's not what this is for. You get your red
use
blend.
Your barefoot.
Yeah, use your barefoot or your red blend. You want something that's like a lighter bodied red. You don't want like a really heavy red. And it balances. It's really good. It just, I don't know. I think I like this. I think I'm going to have more of these.
Take your word for it.
And I was very shocked by this. Yeah, so let's immerse ourselves now. Tonight's episode is going to be an interview with New York Times bestselling author, the Carissa Broadbent, who we literally created our show off of her book series, Crowns of Nyaxia. And what better way, 1 year later, to have her on the show as we cover her latest release? I think for me, how does that make you feel, Michelle?
It's a full circle moment, honestly, because we debated a lot about what book we would use to start the show, and we landed on that because that was one of the big intro books for both of us to get back into romantasy. And just being able to talk with her and understand how her brain works and the story development and all that, it was just I was geeking out the whole time.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a great episode. I'm really excited for you all to hear this interview. It was a lot of fun, and Carissa being on the show was just, to Michelle's point, it was full circle. It was an awesome moment for us, and hope you all enjoy. Here we go. Joining us tonight is a New York Times bestselling author, Carissa Broadbent. Carissa is the author of the War of Lost Hearts series and the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I might be a little bit excited about this, which the newest books in the series is Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk. This was, as you all know, released August 5th. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Carissa. We are quite literally ecstatic to have you on our show.
Much. I'm so excited to be here, and it's a huge honor, so thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So our first question is, talk to us about your journey of becoming an author. What drew you to writing fantasy novels and writing in general?
So I actually started writing when I was like a child. Like I was really into writing. And then I'm a millennial. I'm 30, 32. I don't know. I just count after a while, and like maybe that's for the better. I'll just like keep answering 30. Yeah, forever.
Relatable.
So as some of you might remember, the internet used to be like really cool. Like there used to be a website, and now there's like 5 websites, and they're all evil in some way, like run by a terrible billionaire or something. But there used to be a website. And back in the day when I was like 12, 13 years old, I used to like publish stories like chapter by chapter on like blogs and like forums. Like I was on like this video game design like forum, and I used to publish books on there. For some reason, it was random. But anyway, so I was very into writing as a kid, and I stopped. And then I went to college and everything, came out, got my first like big girl job. And I was like, oh no, this is forever. Immediately picked up writing again. And I was really interested in self-publishing at the time. So that was like a big part of it. Like I was into writing as craft also. I, in parallel, was getting interested in that publishing journey as well. And it was just always fantasy for me because I like making stuff up. I have never written anything fantasy.
That's awesome.
Was it LiveJournal? Do you remember LiveJournal?
Quite a LiveJournal girl. Like I just missed it. Like,
okay.
I was really big into like.
Yeah, Michelle, that might predate you guys. Like I'm older than both of you, so I feel like that probably predates. Yeah, that was definitely like a huge later millennial trend for sure. Was LiveJournal? It was a big one. What was the one that you used? Do you remember?
It was not even like a website. Like this is what I knew when I say like the internet used to be so cool. Like there used to be so many websites. Like I used to just make my own websites, or like I was into. Okay, I'm gonna confess like exactly how nerdy I am. Do you guys remember? Did you ever do like forum role playing? Like when there were like, is this ringing any bells to you? Are you familiar with these games?
Yeah,
it was.
I think I know where you're going.
Like, it'll be like a forum, like old school forum, and it was like they'd have like a theme, like they'd be like, I don't know, like fantasy or whatever. You'd have like a character, and you would like play that character and like write that character and like back and forth with other people who were writing the character. And like as you can imagine, yeah, like is this where I got my first practice writing smut? Totally, yeah, absolutely. But also like my first practice writing in general. But it was only a few years. It was a few years after that when I started writing like books, a lot of these like, websites. And it was not even like a writing website. It was like there was this game, this game maker platform, like this open source, and it was called the RPG Toolkit. And I was into like video game design. And I would like go on these forums, and they had like a creative writing section. And I just like published my first book, like chapter by chapter, to like 3 nerdy guys who, like it was like this really like tiny community. Did once at an event though stumble across somebody who had like known me on there, and it felt like the biggest small world moment ever.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
That was surreal.
It was surreal. It was surreal to the point where I was like, is she lying? Like there was a part of me that was like, like I was like, how is it even?
How did you see that?
There's no way. This was not a big website, and it was so long ago. It was so fascinating. Mm-hmm. We have like a little Discord chat now of like all the people who were on that board. And I immediately went back and I was like, guys, I just met somebody who was like on this like tiny website that we were all on. It was wild. Anyway, sorry, that was totally irrelevant to your actual question.
No, I don't think so. I think it was spot on.
Yeah, very relevant.
Honestly, we
also Michelle, like millennial lore.
Yes, we bring up millennial lore all the time in our show. It's a big staple of what we talk about. Honestly, so you're fitting right in.
Like lore though, like even just now, as I was trying to describe like forum role-playing boards, like this was a big part of the internet, you know, like 20 years ago. Like, and it feels like so weird coming out of my mouth and like, this sounds insane. Like young people listening to this, like listening to me must be like, okay, grandma, put you to bed. Like,
what is that? I mean, but the millennial internet was so unhinged. It was very like, what were we doing in these chat rooms? Like talking to these random strangers.
We're writing
about
code.
Like our personal things. Yeah.
We're out here like ASL and also writing code. No one's going to know what ASL is. Everyone's going to be like, what are you talking about?
Anonymity doesn't exist anymore on the internet, really. Like everybody is like very, like I remember well, I can't say being anonymous on the internet, I remember being like a very big deal back when like we were teenagers on the internet. It was like, there was like, it was, people did not believe that like one day you were not going to be anonymous anymore for the most part, because everyone has like Facebook and like Instagram or whatever. And that's like your identity, just like on the internet, everywhere on these 4 websites that are all evil.
And I kind of miss that, honestly. I miss the essence of a lot of that too. I also miss like the lack, well, in the not innocence in that sense, Michelle, but in the sense of like you could upload like an entire photo album of like one night going out or something and like never think 2 thoughts about it, because everybody was doing that. You weren't sitting there like editing every single photo, cropping things, or like doing any of this like fancy stuff. Like you were just like, here's my little crappy digital camera. I'm going to pop it up there and call it a day, you know? And that was it. There wasn't this over analysis of kind of how you looked and how you presented yourself and all of that. And I think that I honestly I feel bad for the younger generation having to come in with that sort of societal pressure that just didn't exist for us. We were really lucky that we had so many creative websites and spaces, and they do too. They have a ton of them now where, you know, we didn't have like Twitch and all these other like really cool things that they have, but there's still a level, like you said, Carissa, that just like small and creative and just like a different time than where we are at today, for sure.
Yeah, I think that teenagers growing up now, I can only imagine, probably have this sense that like they're just being watched constantly, and that everything that they do or like say at any time, anywhere, could like follow them around for the rest of their lives forever. That must be immensely a stressful way to be 14.
Oh my God.
You know, like.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, when you're 14, you have no filter. Your brain's not developed yet. And then what you do now will lead to, if you leave a paper trail on the internet, it'll impact your jobs later on. And they don't get the joy of having some random screen name and being whoever you want to be on some forum or, you know, on AOL chat room or any of these like video games, because even video games can be tracked now. It's a completely different world.
Wow, there.
Now that we've fully segued, we've gone completely off the rails
a little bit. Like, old man yells at clouds. Like that's us kids these days. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that everyone's tuned out this episode, no, just kidding. Actually, that kind of leads us into our like true question that leads to Crowns of Nyaxia, which I'm wearing a Obertrace shirt right for Sandra's right here. So get your sour foam right there. So those who know. And I wanted to ask, where did you find your inspiration specifically for Crowns of Nyaxia series, like both in the title of the series, spoilers or not, and in the whole world itself? Like, how did it come to you one night in a dream? Like, how did you get to this world building and this kind of chaos that is Crowns of Nyaxia?
It's chaos. Funny that you say come to you in a dream, because I actually, and this is the only time this has ever happened to me, the plot of The Serpent and the Wings of Night, the most of it I did in fact have in a dream. Just like the tournament stuff, you know, it was like just pieces of it. But that was not, that was not like the world part though. Like it was like, when I sat down to do the Crowns of Nyaxia, I was newly a full-time author. Like I became a full-time author partway through the War of Lost Heart series, like in between books 2 and 3. So I wrapped up book 3, and then I was like, well, shit, I'm going to come up with something new. And I am very much an author who I don't tend to like have ideas until I'm like, right, time to sit down and have a new idea. Like I'm very focused on what I'm working on. So I actually only recently have had to do this for like what I'm going to do after that idea because I only have one book left to write. So my agent was like, all right, I'm going to come up with your next idea. And I'm like, so I did that when I finished the third War of Lost Hearts book. And I was like, fuck, I got to come up with another idea. And I had like nothing, like I felt like I have no idea. But I did have like this vague idea that I would like to do vampires. And I was really nervous about that at the time because at that time, there were not really very many vampires that I was seeing in like epic fantasy. Like they were mostly like paranormal romance, kind of urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy type stuff. So I was a little bit nervous about that because this was my livelihood, and, but I was watching like Castlevania, the TV series, and I was like, this is the coolest shit in the world. Like vampires, it like really cemented for me. I'm like, vampires, epic fantasy vampires are the way to go. But I deliberately wanted to create a very big world because when I wrote my previous trilogy, the analogy I always use is that the world building was like pouring honey on the table and it's sort of slowly spreading out of its own accord around the story. Whereas with this series, I deliberately wanted to do the opposite and create the boundaries of a very, very, very big world where I could just continue finding stories within that world as long as I wanted to. So that's kind of how I came up with like, all right, there's vampires, but what kind of vampires do I want to do? I want to do all the kinds of vampires. I want to do like bad vampires. I want to do monster vampires. I want to do creepy, gothy, mind control vampires. There's going to be all these gods. There's going to be all these magic systems that are based around these gods. So I had like this big sense of like, okay, I want this huge world. And then I started picking out the stories like within that I wanted to tell.
Wow. That's a lot. That's kind of what I was going to say about like loving this world is one of the things I loved about reading Serpent in the Wings of Night is that you're not, right away, the world is massive. There's no like question about that. You already know going in that while your main focus is Aurea, the world itself, she's part of this overarching like big world. And I don't know, that kind of hooked me of knowing like we've got a whole series here. We got a lot going on. I'm like really excited, like it gives you like this anticipation of knowing that the author took the time to formulaically like plot this, knowing what they were going to do. And for me as a reader, I really enjoy that. I like knowing like where we're going to go. And it's just something that it's exciting for me to hear that I kind of got that right. And that's not always the case. Like sometimes authors will be like, no, we didn't know where we were going. We're just figuring it out. Or they'll be like, no, it was very methodic. Like we knew exactly what we were doing. But it sounds like you kind of just like, was it, follow-up question. When you wrote Serpent, did you already know about all the other characters you were going to bring in? Or did they kind of surprise you like as you went?
So I knew from the beginning what the overall format of the series was going to be with 6 books and a plot across all 6 books and like each duology within those 6 books featuring a different couple. Originally, like in the very, very beginning, like before I started writing, I kind of had conceived of the duologies being a bit more standalone than they are. But I very quickly, like as soon as I started writing, I was like, I am an epic fantasy author. Like this is going to become an epic fantasy thing. And I do try to, like, I do think the last duology in particular, like if someone really wanted to start with Lion, which is the next book coming up, I think that they could. Overall, it's like one big plot across all 6 books. And I did have kind of a vague sense of like who, each one was going to be about and like roughly what the plot was going to be at a super like 10,000 foot level. But the one that surprised me was the second duet, the Shadowborn one, because when I first started drafting Serpent, it was not originally going to be Misha. Misha was a character that just kind of actually within Serpent, like kind of popped up and just like kept becoming more interesting. And then as I was like editing Serpent, like still revising it, still working on it, I just kept being like, oh, this girl has like such a cool backstory. Like maybe she needs a spinoff. And like my friend was like, no more spinoffs, Carissa. Like you cannot, like there's already too many books in this series. And he had kind of posed the idea of like, oh, maybe that second duology is actually about her, because I had been kind of struggling to like nail down that plot. And then as soon as I realized that that was going to be her story, it just all like, you know, like clicked. It made so much more sense. So I'd say she was the one who surprised me most. Like, I'm not normally one that has characters just like kind of pop up and be like, yeah, I'm the star. But like, she is one that definitely did that.
We love our non-drinker.
Yeah. Our sunshine.
Yes, she's a character.
So our next question kind of builds off of the whole understanding your world building process, because each of your books has, even though it's all in the same Crowns of Nyaxia universe, like Obitrace with the different houses are all, each house is very, very different in terms of like their world and landscape. Then you have Morthrin, which is, that was a ride going through Morthrin and the underworld and all of that. And then you have the human nations in Six Scorched Roses and Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. So these are all different, like very, very different. So can you tell us about your process in actually like building and mapping out the worlds in your series?
So I knew I wanted it to be a really big world, and I wanted the bigness I wanted the reader to really feel that, kind of the way, you know, our world is just so fucking huge. I mean, my life, even here in Rhode Island, is so different than like just the world, the landscape. Like what I see when I look out my window is really different from even someone who lives on the other side of the United States, never mind like any of the far reaches of this like world, anyone who lives in a different country or a different region. It's just, I wanted my world to feel that big, if not bigger, because we had like different mortal planes and things like that we're dealing with. And I wanted there to be a lot of like cultural variation, especially when it comes to the fact that like the magic system is influenced by the gods, and there's 12 of them. So you think about how vast like the vampire world is, like that's still just like a small sliver of the entire world. And I did that partly because I wanted to have lots of room to play. Like the two standalones definitely did kind of, so confession, they kind of came up because I had like obligations that I had agreed to. And I was like, well, better figure out something to write. And they just kind of came to me, and they ended up having a lot more impact on especially Slaying. Slaying very quickly became one that had like a very big impact on like the rest of the plot. So I enjoy being able to explore this world too, where there are like definitely tent poles where I know and I see in a very concrete way. And then there's kind of like cloudy mist where I get to go explore and learn from that too.
That's awesome. And that's funny that came out, your standalones came out randomly, because Six Scorched Roses, the FMC in that book is one of my favorites because she's 30. She's in her 30s and we don't get that her. Like ever.
Never.
So love Lilith. And I love that because we didn't read that until after we read Ashes. I know you're supposed to read it before in terms of timeline, but it allowed me to have a lot more depth in where she was coming from in Ashes and like, yeah, in Vale. And I just loved her. You know, she was just a little scientist. She just wanted to save her sister, and
I love her too. I really thought nobody was going to like that book.
She's
like I wrote it, and I wrote it in like 2 weeks. Like I wrote it really, really fast because I had signed up to do this anthology, and I was kind of like, well, I get to write whatever I want, you know, like it's okay if it's so different from Serpent. So I was like, who are these people who are going to be like here for vampire gladiatorial matches and then also be like, oh, I'll have this nice little story about a scientist girl, you know? But it's very close to my heart. It's been really wonderful seeing people connect with it.
But was it nice, Carissa? Was it? Because I feel like your characters, these poor people, they just go through it, okay? Our girl Lilith had a rough go.
I feel bad for Vale, honestly. Like, you know, I'll be vague.
Well, yeah.
Especially like off. Yeah, I was surprised. And this is very vague, so I'll even, you know, say maybe it's not a spoiler. But in Solon, dark book, a lot of people suffer. But kind of funny to me how Vale kind of suffers the most. Even though he's kind of off page. That poor guy. I feel like he needs like a fluffy like chapter or something to like heal up afterwards. Oof.
Poor Vale. Yeah. On that note, related to and what I really like too is like so far, and I wonder if this is going to continue, don't answer that yet, but so far we've gotten a lot more glimpses, and we see this even in Fallen more, of the different personalities of the gods and goddesses that you've created. You know, Slaying had a really in-depth version of that world. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. We're not going to do all that right now, but I have a question. Of the gods and goddesses that you've created, who's your favorite and who is your least favorite?
Ooh, least. Let's see.
Let's go dead or alive.
Yeah,
too.
man. Okay. Favorite to write? This is like kind of a random answer, but I really like Srana, the goddess of like machinery and science, because I love writing her because her action sequences are so cool. Like I get to go crazy with like steampunk animatronic soldiers and like all of that stuff. So that's like a lot of fun for me personally. Least favorite? I think that Shyket's a real bitch. I mean, she's just she's so sanctimonious. I think she's awful. She's awful.
Okay. I had a saying when we were covering the deep dive that Atraxis is atrocious.
She is.
So that was my saying.
They were good. They were good buddies. Two peas in a pod, those two. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So, and then leading from gods, so of characters in any of the books, who's been the most challenging to write for you?
So Misha was challenging at first. Like Songbird was the hardest book I have ever written. And a lot of that was because of like my personal circumstances at the time. So I was coming back from a maternity leave. I did not give myself enough time. And my life had changed like very dramatically. And then also she's so different. Like she was so different than writing Araya. But by the time I was writing Fallen, she was very easy to write. Like I really fell in love with writing her. I think that the hardest character is probably Septimus, honestly, because he's so much smarter than me. Like it's very hard to write characters that are like, 10 steps ahead, because that means that you have to be 10 steps ahead.
He so is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember so when we first read him, like he's supposed to be a villain, right? Like you're not supposed to like Septimus at all. And then as you progress, you're like, okay, I understand why you're like that. And you're actually like a main character and we want good things coming from you. It was,
I don't know why,
kind of a weird dynamic to come out of, because you're supposed to like not like him at first and then you grow to enjoy him. I'm sure in your next duology, we end up loving him, obviously.
I hope so.
But
we'll see.
Yeah, he was,
Well, at first, I feel like in Serpents, you're just like, what, like a skeezy guy who's like smoking a cigarette out here by the bushes. Like, what's going on with this dude? You're kind of like, what's going on with Septimus and why does he feel like so skeezy? But then he also sounds kind of hot. So you're like confused. You're like, am I supposed to like him? Am I not? Is he just like a hot villain? And like, is he just morally gray? What are we working with here? And I think we definitely have like a really good morally gray House of Blood character, which fits because they're like, it just works with the whole House of Blood situation. I loved how Slaying, like, I love that there's a cousin involved here. Like, we get some more story there, family ties, like all of that kind of like, it just, I'm really excited for book 5. Not to say that I haven't loved all the dualities, but I think that saving Septimus for like 5 and 6 is going to be really exciting to read. I wanted to ask you, and you kind of like have shared some of this on your Instagram and on your socials, but what is like your white writer like quirk or like thing that you use or methodology of like how you write your books? Do you use like a special typewriter? Is there a certain time of day? What kind of gets you through? And like, when did you learn that this was or wasn't like something you needed for your writing process?
Oh my God, I could geek out about this for like a solid half hour. So like, please stop me if I get too obnoxious.
We're buckling up.
Okay. Yeah. I love writer gadgets. So I actually don't have any around me right now, unfortunately. So I draft exclusively on like distraction-free writing devices. I started off with something called an Alpha Smart Neo, which if you guys are around my age, you might remember them from school, like elementary school. They're like a keyboard with like almost like a typewriter type screen that has like 3 lines of text on it. And it's just a word processor. Like, that's it. And then like you plug it into the computer and it like types all of your stuff. Like it's bizarre. It's like a weird little machine, but it's amazing because it doesn't do anything. That's it. You just type things. That's it. That's all it does. And that was like amazing for me because first of all, it means that you can't edit. Like you're not stopping to reread everything and go back. So I don't edit as I draft at all. Like I will even leave a note to myself to be like,
okay,
take out the sword in this scene. Like she doesn't have a sword actually. And then it will be like I don't backspace at all, basically. And on top of that, I pretty much exclusively draft in coffee shops. Like I never draft at home unless I'm like really like nights and weekends and stuff. But for the most part, and I started doing that back when I had a day job because the only time I could reliably write, I would get up at 4:30 and I would go to Starbucks by 6 o'clock and I would write from 6 to 8 in the morning, like before I went to the office. So, and now I'm like basically just beholden to my process because I'm kind of chaotic and I've used a lot of different distraction-free writing devices. And now I have kind of a weird setup with like a little e-ink tablet thing and like a keyboard. And I get lots of weird looks in coffee shops, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah. As long as your process
it works for me
for you.
So far.
It doesn't matter what everyone else thinks.
It's clearly working. Yeah. Love that. I wish that the only way we can do, I like for editing, the only thing I can do is like put do not disturb on. And then I just have to be good about not going to like jump to anything while I'm working on the show, like while we're working on it, which is very difficult to do, I find. So that's nice that you can kind of just like use one medium like that and switch over to that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's nice. And I'm such a geek for this stuff now. Like there's they're called writer decks. Like it's a term for like these devices that just do writing. So there's like a subreddit for it. And there's a bunch of different ones that people use. And I own all of them. Like I'm not going to pretend that this is all productivity. Like this is my hobby at this point, just like collecting weird little digital typewriter things.
So we've talked about process for developing world, and we've talked about your characters. So for The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk, do you use inspiration from your real life when developing your characters? Are these just completely random when you're thinking of their personalities and how they look?
So when it comes to like appearances, one thing I do try to be conscious of now, I once saw someone on Twitter like a few years ago point out that like this is kind of when romantasy was like just starting to like become a big mainstream thing. And they were like, all of these romantasy guys look the same. And I can't tell like what fan art is for what, because it's all like some guy with like black hair and blue eyes and a bunch of tattoos, you know, like they all like look the same. And I was like, oh, they're right. So now I actually don't generally think about my characters' appearances that much, except the main couple, I do try to make them look distinctive, particularly together. So that way, if someone does see fan art of these characters, they're like, oh, that's Rain and Araya. Like, oh, that's Misha and Asar. So I do try to give them some kind of like distinctive feature that is like something that is not shared by like, 75 other romantasy guys or something. Appearance wise, that's like the only thing that I do try to think about. Personality wise and like romance wise. So I am theme first. Like the first thing I come up with for every book is the theme. Like, what is this book about? A lot of times I'll have like a vague sense of like, well, like Misha, for example, she was already a character. So like I know her personality. That I wanted Asar to be like kind of a more bookish guy, like kind of uptight, like quiet. But when I think about that theme, I try to place them on kind of opposite sides of it, or maybe they're kind of exploring it in the same way. So like both Misha and Asar are people who like are actually like healers, at their soul. Like they're people who want to fix things, but they're also people who are both dealing with a really extreme loss of faith in like a very violent way. And a lot of times like the personality comes from that, like me pushing and pulling that theme like through those characters.
Okay. I like it. So it actually fits really well into my next question, which was completely coincidental, but works perfectly for where you just came off of. What themes were the most important for you to explore across Crowns of Nyaxia? Swear to God, that was our next question anyway, and it just happened to be what you were just talking about, so it flowed really well.
So good at this. You're amazing at this job. So you know what's funny is I think about theme like for each individual book, or like for each duology, I will say, like for each couple's arc. And I had never, except when someone asked me on tour that question about, they asked for like, what would you say the theme of like the whole Crowns of Nyaxia series? And I just gave them like this really long rambling answer. And like by the end, I had like come up with the answer. I was like, yeah, that's it. So the answer that I determined it to be was, I really enjoyed exploring power and like whether it is possible to both fight for and obtain and like hold power without becoming like inherently morally corrupt, basically. And that's a theme that kind of come across like all of the books in kind of like a, you know, as an underlying way. Yeah. And it's kind of at the heart of Nyaxia's story too, right? Because she sacrificed, not really, well, sacrifice implies that she had choice in the matter, but she ultimately had sacrificed like love for power. Yeah. And it kind of has fucked her up pretty hard. So yeah, just a little
tad.
She's still, yeah.
She's a mess. She's a mess. They're all a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on the show about when we first did our deep dives of this series and you know, just in general, the role of power in multiple lights throughout each book. I don't think that it can be understated that power is a critical part of all of the stories, because when you're bringing in gods and goddesses, it's unavoidable. You're going to have to talk about that because they wield that. They constantly remind all of their, you know, loyal followers and believers that like they're the ultimate decider. So, you know, whether it's morally right or wrong or the right thing, you know, they don't really care at all because ultimately they're the most powerful. That's what the kind of viewpoint is of a lot of what they do. So I think, it strikes a chord. But I do think that your storytelling has like tons of other underlying themes throughout that are twisted in power, and how love plays a part in that power dynamic, and how loyalty and how trust and all these different variations of where trauma, absolutely. Yeah, and you kind of see that with Vincent too. And I think Vincent's such a dynamic character. He is just, you want to believe he's just a guy that loves his daughter, but he's just
sometimes
not that. Yeah, fully that. And Michelle, Vincent's like one of your favorites. You got to tell Carissa how much you love Vincent. Yes.
I love Vincent. And so I really, really loved Vincent in Ashes because you see like those pieces of like his memory and all that like leading up. And then when I was reading Fallen, and you can still see it's like you're in the underworld and you're still grappling with power and your love for your daughter, which you refuse to admit. You're dead now. And you're talking to Misha. He's like, don't even talk to me about that. I'm like, what? You're dead. Just admit it now. And so he's like, I love him because he's dynamic in the sense that like, yes, he has his power, but everything underneath was also to protect his daughter, but he doesn't want to admit it, but he needs to, you know. But I really loved him.
I appreciate that. I love him too. He was one of my favorite characters to write because he's such a mess. And I truly did not know how people were going to react to him. Like my beta readers were kind of like all over the map. Like I didn't know if people were going to hate him or if they were going to like love him and like the answer was yes, apparently was all those things because all right. So I feel really strongly that it is like difficult to be a good person, right? It's not like, you know, you wake up one day and you're like, oh, this is the morally correct decision and therefore I will do this thing. Like it's hard, you know, and how many of us like say, oh, I'm going to be, you know, a better daughter, or I'm going to be like a better sister, or I'm going to do this and this better. Like, you know, you're trying to be better and it's hard. Like a lot of people can't do it. Like, deciding to do it is the easy part. And most people still can't actually do it. And I feel strongly as a writer that in order to write people doing the right thing and having that be meaningful, you also have to show people who cannot do it, who fail, essentially. And to me, Vincent is a prime example of a character who just could not get over his own shit. Like, he did love his daughter very much, but that didn't make him a good father. Like, he was not a good father. I mean, he loved Araya's mother, but that didn't make him a good partner. Like, he essentially killed her. Yeah, he killed her.
Terrible.
So, and I feel like a lot of times in media, those things are not explored like together. And that's what I find so compelling about him, because all those things are true. He loved her, but he still sucks in this way. But all of these things are still true at the same time.
I think that made Oraya so much more dynamic too, and relatable, honestly, because Michelle and I have talked about this at length, and those who listen to the show know that we have our issues with our own parents and ways that we wish that things could have been better in a lot of ways. And also, we're parents ourselves. And I think that choice, kind of as you put it, of I want to be good and I am doing good, are two very different things. It is something we really explored when we did the deep dive of talking about Oraya's life and her impact of trying to understand Vincent while forgiving him, sort of, but also just like the layers of that. And you see that in Fallen when Misha starts to try to talk to her about this, and like where Oraya kind of goes to Misha to have the conversation with her about Vincent. She at first like can't at all, because that means she has to go back and like dig this thing up again, where she kind of like had already put Vincent away. And so that was like something for me that I really liked about Fallen, was that you brought that theme up again. That was so powerful in the first duology. You were able to tie Oraya's struggle with Vincent. And I was really excited. We were so excited at the end of Misha's first book. We were so excited at the end to have Vincent come up. Michelle was like, she screamed. She's like, Vincent's back.
Yes, I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then immediately I'm like, where's Lucy? Like, I had like two separate feelings of what happened in that last like chapter. I'm like, yes, Vincent back. I'm like, where's Lucy? Come on.
Oh, we love Lucy.
That would be so cruel of me. Like, I could not kill Lucy. Also, technically I already did. So she can't die. She already did. It's fine.
Yeah, she's already
I'm glad that you felt that his arc in Fallen like resonated with you. I was really nervous about it, to be honest with you, because so at risk of making myself sound like less professional, when I got to the end of Songbird, I had not originally plotted that Vincent was going to be a character in this next book. I just kind of got to the end of Songbird, like when my first draft, and I was like, I need someone who's dead. Who do I have who's dead? And I was like, I was like, that would be a wild pair. And then I kind of, when I was sitting down to draft Fallen, I had a lot of I was kind of second guessing myself a little bit, because I was nervous, you know, kind of to your point, like I felt like his arc had been kind of put to bed in ashes, and I didn't want to dredge it back up for no good reason, but also I didn't want to put this neat little bow on it. Like, I didn't want him to be like, oh, I'm like the best now. Like, I'm just good now. Like, I'm a good guy. I have no issues. It's totally fine. Like, I am absolved of all of my previous sins. I was not interested in doing that for him. So I wanted to bring him back in a way that was meaningful to the story, and like maybe gave him an opportunity to redeem himself a little bit, but still made it clear that he's still, you know, he's working hard for that. And it does not make him a perfect person or someone who is absolved of all the stuff that he did in any way.
He's still arrogant as shit,
really
too.
is.
My
He's
God,
just like, I love writing a man who has just been completely ruined by toxic masculinity. And Vincent is definitely like that guy for sure. Yeah. Really he's a mess.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's talk about spice. So you write your spicy scenes with incredible care. They're there to move the plot and move the characters forward. So it's not spice for spice's sake, which we love. What is your process for writing that, mapping it out, and inputting it in your story?
Oh, first of all, thank you. It's difficult. I mean, it's difficult. They're very difficult scenes to write. I mean, it's similar to writing. People always laugh when I say this, but it's exactly the same as writing a fight scene, because they're both things that are like, you know, obviously if you're doing it, you know, it's high octane and everything, but it could be really boring to read about. You know, I stabbed a guy a bunch of times, or a guy stabbed me a bunch of times. So like, it can be dull. Yeah. So I try to put every scene there for a reason. You know, something is different at the beginning of the scene versus the end of the scene, and something more than like, oh, we're all a lot more like sweaty than we were at the beginning. And I usually try to have it be like, there's a very clear arc to it, and focusing on that and focusing on like the characters and where they are in their journey together. It's usually where I try to start. And then I typically have to kind of like in my second draft, go back and like turn up the sexual tension basically, because I feel like I'm incapable of writing anything but a slow burn, because I need to get to know the characters and their dynamic first. And then I can go back and just like kind of crank up the heat like everywhere. For my most recent one, where there was definitely a lot of heat like to begin with. So it's definitely slow, maybe my slowest burn, but definitely like the most sexual tension of any couple that I've ever written.
Sounds very Septimus.
So it felt like that's the only way it could be for him, you know? It's fun to write like a flirty guy, because most of my guys are very introverted. Like most of them, like Rain was kind of the most unusual like male protagonist of mine in that regard. Like with my previous series and everything, like my guys are usually like a little bit, they're not usually very flirty. So fun to write a flirty guy.
Yeah. You had kind of mentioned that you do the slow burn to kind of get to know your characters. I wanted to compliment you on that, because I really feel like the spicy scenes in Misha and Asar's story feel very different than any of the spicy scenes for any of the other characters, and vice versa. I think you do an excellent job of making the spice scenes feel particular to those characters. Like you took a lot of time to make it seem very personal to them. Of course, my favorite are the ones that are multi-point of view. Those are the best ones on the second duology. Yeah, it feels so intentional, and to Michelle's point, it always drives plot. And this couldn't be more true in Fallen. Fallen's a very good example of that, because Misha has so many different things that happen to her, and so does Asar, in terms of even physicality of like Misha herself, her physical body, just the way that the story changes. And I noticed that when we're reading the book, and it honestly, that's part of why we enjoy your book so much, is that Spice is great. I don't have any issue with that. They're fun reads. I enjoy those. But when you read a series where the author takes the time and knows who she's writing, and knows a certain scene for Rain and Aurea wouldn't work for Misha and Asar. And that's just like the difference of like, you can tell that when you're reading the book of like, this is true to them and this would work. Even though they're fictional characters, I feel like I read the spice and I'm like, yeah, that sounds right to me, which is a bizarre thing to say out loud. But I swear, like in the moment, I'm like thinking like, yeah, that's, or like there'll be moments where Misha will say something and I'll legit, like I was listening to the audiobook, I'll listen to it and I'll just like smile to myself. I'm like, of course she said that. Like, that's so Misha, like for her to say off the cuff here, you know, it just like, I can tell that you take so much time and invest that time in that. So I was just like a kudos to you for that, I guess. I don't know where I was going there. Just kind of
I love it.
You know, I'm on a train to
that's
nowhere.
That's not a train to nowhere. That's a train to complimenting me. And I love those trains. That's my favorite kind of train. So thank you.
Did you have like a favorite spice scene that you wrote?
Ooh, that is a good
Michelle.
question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. See, I can't pick. I like them all for different reasons. You know, like one thing I enjoyed writing in Fallen was there's quite a few spicy scenes, maybe the most in any book that I've written, maybe Ashes. There's a few. But part of why I liked that was because Misha had this journey of like learning to appreciate sexuality. Like that was kind of unlike any other character that I had written before. So that was a lot of fun, like just in general, like getting to write, because she was like, you know, like, oh, sex is fun, you know, and that's like not a word that we usually use in like romantasy books to like describe it. Like it's usually all these like heavy, like angsty terms, but she's just coming like, this is fun. Like, you know, I've never thought about sex in this way before. So that was really fun to write. I really enjoyed.
She even says that to Asar, doesn't she? She's like, yeah, that was fun. And he's like, what?
Yeah, they have a conversation about it after. So it was very fun to write, like Misha having that journey of like being to appreciate her sexuality. I also really like the spicy scenes in Lion, the upcoming book. And a relationship unlike any that I've ever written. So it was fun.
I have a question on that. Okay. So you said, and maybe you can't tell us this, which, okay, fine, but I'm going to ask anyway. So you said that you have like very physical different attributes that you attribute to your couples. We know that Septimus's significant other is human. You've released that piece that we know of. Can you tell us any other physical attributes?
No, I can. I can. I am, my husband calls me Carissa spoiler alert Broadbent because I just like cannot keep secrets. So I was just like double checking myself to make sure that I was not. She's definitely like, I mean, so we know from the title, like she's the lion, right? She's like a warrior, you know, and not like Araya is like kind of like an assassin type, you know, if she was like in like Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, like. This bitch carries around a giant sword that's like as big as her, you know, like she's, I
like it.
She's powerful. They're very competitive with each other. And like it's a very, I've never written a vibe like this before, but I had so much fun. She's my favorite. I mean, I can't pick a favorite, but I had so much fun. I can't because it changes constantly. So I'll say right now, like, oh, she's my favorite female main character, but like it changes constantly, you know. But she is like the messiest, boldest bitch I have ever written. Like she's something. She's something.
Yeah, here for it. Is the sword like a standard sword? Now I'm thinking like you said Dungeons and Dragons. Are we thinking like a sword or are we thinking like this big ass two-hand?
It's a two-hander. So this is not a spoiler because this is in the blurb of the thing. She has, all right, at the end of Fallen, Shyket shows up and she's missing a sword from her like sword wing things. This is the sword that she has. She has this sword. So it's like this big glowing golden giant sword. And it talks. It's a sentient sword. That's her. It's so much fun. So much fun. I love her. But she's changed. I mean, she's changed very dramatically since we met her in Fallen, clearly. Like her personality has changed a lot since her origin story in that day. So.
Okay. Well, now we're really intrigued. Okay. All right. So kind of a fun-ish question, which might not be fun. We'll have to see. You have to live in one of the places that you've created. Where are you choosing to live?
None of them. None of them. I would die so fast. People always ask me, like, which vampire house would you live in? And I'd say that I would die in any of them. Like, you know what? Like the zombie movie in the beginning, there's like a montage where it's just like random people getting like eaten at a gas station or something. Like that's me. I'm that girl, like in the opening credits. So I always say House of Shadow if I have to pick like a vampire house, because I feel like I could just kind of hide in the bookcases or something and that's how I'd survive. Otherwise, I don't know. Can I pick like Max's garden like after the war? Like after everything is done in the War of Lost Arts? Because if so, I pick that.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's your world. You can pick wherever you want. Yeah, that works.
Yep, that's my choice.
All right. So
all right.
That makes sense. I think we've asked, me and Danny have asked each other this. I'm like, I don't want to live anywhere. The world's amazing.
The world's reread about.
For us.
I can't.
And like as a human,
no.
No, I would be,
I mean, we cover thrillers, fantasy, and dark romance. And by nature, I feel like all of those are places that I really probably don't want to
Seriously, I know.
Offhand.
So you feature so many incredible fan art depictions of your characters and even music. Talk to us about how it feels to have someone create art based on your characters.
Amazing. It's, to this day, it's just like the best part of it for me. Seriously. Like, even after so many amazing, surreal things happening in my career, whenever I see fan art that somebody created, it's like as good as all of that, like as good as being on the New York Times list. And I can still remember the very first time that I saw any fan art created for any of my books. It was for Daughter of the Worlds. It was like shortly after Children of Fallen Gods came out. And it I was shaking. Like, it still stands out to me as probably like one of the happiest like moments of my career. Like, seriously. So amazing. I think as creatives, like, we really feel extra special at having inspired other creatives to put that kind of like care and energy into something, you know?
Yeah. I think we were talking about this we had another podcast on, and we were talking about how we know that we're putting out something that people will recognize us, but then when someone recognizes us, like, we've been to a couple events before, and then somebody wanted to take a picture with us, and I'm just like, that, and they're like, we love your show, we love what you guys are doing, and like, that is a surreal out of body experience, but also like the best feeling. It's such a good feeling to know that we've done something positive for someone else. It just feels so good. And so I can only imagine, like, you've created these characters with such depth and such love for them and so much time and hours and hours and hours, right, of work into this. And for someone to like, someone wrote a SARS song. Like, that's incredible.
It's pretty.
Lindsay Dill wrote the song for Asar, and it's mind-blowing. I feel like that level of like love and obsession too of your characters is just such a, what a compliment.
I know. I love working with Lindsay, and at this point I'm now like, okay, I'm going to commission you to do like music from all of my books at this point on. I mean, these two made it very easy because like music was like a thing, you know, in it. But she's so talented, and it's like so surreal to hear like an actual song, you know, from my books come to life. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wanted to touch on social media a little bit more. You, on your Instagram, even last year and before we even started the show, I was a follower of yours on my personal account. So I've watched a lot of your stuff and things that you've put out, and a lot of it is, aside from promoting your books and things, you'll put out advice for its aspiring authors. And I would say, of that, what piece of advice, especially now at the level you're at, would you say that you recommend is like the best piece or like most impactful piece of advice that you have for aspiring authors?
I think this is so cliche, and I feel like people like roll their eyes when I say it, but like, there is no substitute for just finishing the book. You know, I think that that's like the number one. I mostly get questions from, you know, newer authors who have yet to finish their first book. And at that point, I say, like, the only advice I can give you is just finish a book. And like, that's a skill. Like, typing the end is a skill that you just have to get over that hurdle. And then you can start worrying about, like, because a lot of times people will be asking me about like editing or about querying or about publishing, and I'll be like, just finish the book, like, type the end. And that's also where I often go back to nerding out about my little writer device things, because I think that they're like so good at helping people just get to the end, you know, at least for me, not for everybody, but for me. I still think after everything, that is like the best advice that I can offer like newer writers who are still working on finishing that first book. Like, there's no substitute for just button share time, and build it around like the person that you are, instead of like the imaginary version of yourself that you wish you were. For example, that's why I used to work. I used to work before work, because I very quickly realized I was not going to write after work. Like, I was just too tired. It was not going to happen. So it was just a matter of like, where do I find that like hour a day to do it? And for me, it was in the morning, but that was the big turning point for me.
So we've talked, right. So we've talked about Crowns of Nyaxia World. Do you have any other standalone novels or novellas planned for the Crowns of Nyaxia? Or are we just, after the Bloodborne duet, are we done with the entire
We're
series?
done, baby. 8 books is too many books. I am never writing a series this long again. I don't know what I was thinking. Too many books.
Is it? I don't know.
I had very seriously considered a Vincent novella. Like I had it plotted and everything. Like I really was very seriously considering it, but I just don't think the stars are not going to align on that one. But so, yep, we're done. We're done.
Okay.
All right. Well, I was kind of hoping because all right, we've accepted it. I've accepted it. I'm going to move on. We won't try to. Okay. So we know that Daughter of No Worlds just got like this whole new look, right? It's being released by Bramble and in October 14th. Can you tell us what it was like working with the artist Arthur Wang on the new redesign and the difference of how this process has been from self-publish to being republished by Bramble? And mostly for aspiring artists, I think, or aspiring writers, I think it'd be interesting to hear kind of how that all worked and what that kind of looked like for
Absolutely.
you.
I love talking about this because this is one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on. So he is amazing. I actually worked on this project completely without Bramble. Like I did all of this with him before Bramble was involved. And actually after all the art was finished, my intention had been to self-publish, like to just do a new edition, self-published again. And then we kind of went to Bramble and we were like, hey, you want to get in on this? Basically, like it's worked out pretty well with the other series. Like, do you want to be involved with this? But that was nice because it also meant like I had full creative control. Like I just did it. So I knew that I wanted to give those books kind of a bit of a cover refresh. I do love the original covers and everything, but they had been out for a few years at this point. I felt like it was just kind of time to like give them a new look and maybe capture some new readers that had not picked it up before. It was also becoming increasingly common that they were confused for young adult. I think because of the whole like girl in a dress, like with a sword thing. And I kind of felt like, I have some like name recognition now. I could like, if I could find like my real dream like artist, like who would that be? And I have all of Arthur's tarot decks, which I know nothing about tarot. I just like pull the cards just to like look at them and go, wow, so beautiful. But they're gorgeous. Like, especially in person, they're really, really beautiful. And I shot him a message, like fully expecting him to say no. He was on board and he is amazing to work with particularly because he is a tarot artist. He is so thoughtful about symbolism and he just has like this incredible attention to detail. And he's just such a, like I describe him as a capital A artist, like he is really, like we worked on this for like a year like some of it was like, oh, I'm a little busy this week. He's a little busy this week.
Course.
But we worked on it for a long time. He was just so thoughtful and thorough. And like, he really took the time to like understand the books and like the themes of them. And there's so many Easter eggs like hidden in this art. Also, he is just such an incredible painter. I could go on about this for like half an hour. I just loved working with him. And it's kind of nice to have the best of both worlds to be able to do this and have all of this creative control and then just like go to Bramble and be like, here you go, put it on shelves, I'm really fortunate because most authors do not get that kind of freedom, So I'm very lucky to have that situation.
Mm-hmm. Follow-up question to that for our listeners and maybe who are never going to be aspiring authors, but just out of curiosity, can you walk us through kind of self-publish versus published by Bramble and what that kind of has meant and what that has changed for you as a writer?
Absolutely. So terminology that people might hear frequently is indie publishing or self-publishing versus traditional publishing. So indie publishing is when you self-publish, like you're in charge of editing, like sourcing your own cover designs, like you're uploading to Amazon. And that is how I started my career. And I still am partly self-published. The drawback of that is that like your books are usually not going to be in bookstores because it's just like there's a whole, I won't get into all the logistics of the whole thing, but logistically, it is very difficult for bookstores to carry self-published books because they are printed differently and the margins on them are different. It's just challenging. And then you're not going to have like this big, sales team behind you who's going to Barnes & Noble or Target or whatever and saying, hey, you should order 10,000 copies of Carissa's next book. Like that's not happening. But let me just put it this way. Being self-published is very financially advantageous. So I don't want anyone to come away from this considering these two options, thinking that I'm saying that self-publishing is somehow inferior. And I always like to mention this because I never want someone to look at my career trajectory and be like, oh, all of these authors are getting traditional deals. That means that self-publishing is not as good. The deals that we're getting are very different than the deals that we would be getting if we had just gone traditional from the beginning. So I just like to put that out there so that everybody knows.
Interesting.
So for example, now I still self-publish my ebooks. Like if you go on to Amazon and look at my ebooks in the publisher, it's going to say Carissa Broadbent.
So like Kindle Unlimited, for example? It'll say
exactly.
Carissa
Like if you look in like the, like the details box on Amazon, that's also why my books are still in ebook only on Amazon, because for independent authors, Amazon does not allow you to be in KU and then also on Kobo and Apple Books and all that stuff. I'm trying so hard. Please, Amazon, please let me. but they will not. So anyway, now my print books, my hardcovers and paperbacks go through my publisher, Bramble. So I'm in kind of a unique situation where I am partly self-published and partly traditionally published because I now have a publisher. I have an editor at the publisher and everything. And like we work together the same way that any traditional author would on my books. And they now take care of all print distribution and everything for me. And they've been a really fantastic partner. I'm really grateful to be working with so many talented people over there.
That's awesome.
When you transitioned from being self-published to working with Bramble, did you approach them or did they approach you?
They approached me.
With?
Yeah. And we actually, this is again something I try to be transparent about so that other authors who are in this position, because it's getting very common. Like every day we see more indie authors who are getting kind of scooped up by publishers.
I think Carrie Lake just got picked up.
Yeah, and that would not surprise me.
Picked up too from Nocticadia. That whole, fairly certain she just got picked up for that. I saw that she had posted that one's going to be traditionally published now, Nocticadia, which is
I've heard it's fantastic. I need to read it. Yeah, it's very common, but I just say like I would urge other authors who are starting to be in this position, who are like on the cusp of maybe getting that kind of attention. Don't feel like you have to take the first one that comes to you. In our case, I was very lucky to have agents who were very familiar with self-publishing and the advantages of self-publishing. And they like really shook me by the shoulders and were like, look, you're getting like, because they really woo you, like it's very flattering, to have a publisher come to you and have interest in your books. But I'm lucky I had really good agents who really saw long-term, like what kind of a deal would be worth giving up control for and what kind would not be right for me personally.
Yeah. Would you consider doing a film for any of your books if you were approached?
Oh, yeah.
What would rights look like to you, or which one would you want to see on screen?
So I would love any of my books to be an animated series or I love animation.
Ooh.
I think it's the ideal format for fantasy adaptations. I would love that personally.
Yes. Just look at K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yes. Like I'm saying, Castlevania, which is what inspired me at the time, or like Arcane. Like it feels like there's been really wonderful animated, really like epic plot-driven stuff happening. I would love that one day. That's like a bucket list dream for me.
Yeah, and
that's awesome.
With fantasy, it's hard because you have how you want your MMC to look or how you want your FMC to look, and that person might not exist in terms of like acting. So with animation, you can have that drawn. You can have the whole 5'2" to 6'7" dynamic because that can exist in the animated world. And I feel like you would have more control over that.
Yeah, I just think it's just such a fun medium. Also, realistically, have wings ever looked good in live action? Like ever, even once? I cannot think of a single example. I'm just saying.
I'm also thinking of Asar, like the details of him and like the different way that he visibly like looks. Like I feel like all of that has to be done really, really well. And like a live action for him would be really challenging. And their whole duology visually would be a lot of CGI. It would be a lot to try to like do all
that's
that.
Why I'm like, call me Hollywood. I would love it. I would love anyone to adapt any of my books, but
fair enough.
I'm going to be realistic here. Like if they have not managed to get ACOTAR, like the biggest freaking selling series of all time, like none of Brandon Sanderson's books have been adapted. Fourth Wing has not been adapted yet. Like I know that they're working on these things and everything. There is no way somebody is going to shovel millions of dollars into my stupid books. Like there's just no way, realistically. But also Hollywood, if you're listening, I'm totally open to it. Please.
Well, we definitely don't think your books are stupid, and I would totally watch it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm thinking of Lucy, and that's in terms of like how that would look visually. It would have to be she would have to be CGI, or you would have an actual dog actor, but it would look strange. But that also leads me into our next question. We love Lucy in the Shadowborn duet. Will we possibly see another lovable animal character in The Lion in the Deathless Dark?
No real animals. We have a weapon though. We've got a sword. Okay. Right? So we've got a sidekick. She's a sentient sword. She's very sassy.
We like that.
Okay.
So we have a sidekick. Okay. So speaking of The Lion in the Deathless Dark, can you give us some non-spoiler details? You've given us a few, but like, can you give us anything that, like, would you be able to read us the first sentence? Can you give us like anything that you haven't given already that isn't too spoiler? So
I've written enough books. I've written 11 books at this point, something like that, some absurd number of books. A lot of books. At this point, I've noticed trends. Like I've noticed that there are kind of clusters of books. So like people will be like, oh, I really loved like the latter two books in the War of Lost Hearts. Like I really love like that like epic fantasy. And like those people really liked Fallen. Like I've noticed like there's clusters, and then there's like people who really liked Daughter of No Worlds tend to also really like Six Scorched Roses for some reason. Like it's like there's clusters. This one, I really think that the people who really loved Serpent, like where Serpent is their favorite of my books, I think this one is going to be one they really like. It is very action-packed, and it's very big. There are a lot of gods. We see a lot of the gods. And yeah, it's very epic. It's very epic and very like fast-paced.
Okay. Do we get a new map?
Oh, I hate doing the maps. Actually, thank you for mentioning that, because this time I always leave it for the end, and then I just like hate myself because I'm like, I'm like in copy edits and I'm trying to like reverse engineer a map like from the things that I've said. I am very bad with numbers and directions and things like that. Like every single book, I'm always like Googling how many guys are in an army? Like how big's an army? How many guys? Like it's always like, so I am about as good with directions as you would expect me to be. Yes, there's going to have to be a huge, so we've seen the map kind of gradually zoom out over the Nyaxia books. This is going to have to be like way zoomed down, because we are all over like the human nations, and like we are all over the place in this book.
We love a new map.
I'll try not to mess it up. Sometimes I mess them up. I was doing the maps for the War of Lost Hearts books for the new editions. Talk about stressful, because this series is like 2,500 pages long, like this long series that I wrote years ago. So I had to like go back through it and try to be like, wait, like where, like I was like Control F, like east, west, like searching for every mention of any direction, like in the books, to make sure that I was mentioning the places I was supposed to mention. Like very stressful. Do not recommend. I need to always do my maps from the beginning.
But we're getting a new map, everyone.
Yes,
in case you missed that.
Yeah,
we're getting a new map.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
You're getting a new map. Yes. I'll work really hard on it for you.
Appreciate that. Can we expect to see more of our beloved characters in the last duology of Crowns of Nyaxia? So I know we get Septimus, obviously, it's his book, but do we get any of our other main characters that we've seen so far?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're down to the last two. Like, everything's coming together. But let me just put it this way. Everyone's got the objective. Everyone's the hero of their own story, right? Everyone's working towards their own goal, not necessarily aligned. So, yeah, maybe we see some old friends, but like, are they on our side or are they villains in this book? That's the question, really.
Carissa.
Oh, okay.
That's brutal.
Okay.
Oh, God, that's uncomfortable. I don't. Okay.
Yeah, now I'm thinking, I'm like, wait, which one? Who would be the villain?
Well, just think about
who
like
we've seen that would be a villain that's not
who's on what side. I mean, we end Fallen, right? With there's like 3 teams. There's like the White Pantheon, like all the humans for the most part, and then there's Acacia, the goddess of fate, and she's got Araya, Rain, Misha, Asar, plus like her human followers. But she's got them, and then there's Nyaxia.
I don't love her.
Oh, she's something. She's something.
Not my favorite.
Yeah, I thought I would like her more than I did. For whatever reason, at the end of Songbird, I'm like, oh, she's actually like kind of a cool goddess. And then after reading Slay, I'm like, actually, I don't know about her anymore.
Well, the thing is
we read it after. Yeah, we just recently read Slaying. So and yeah, so that changed my viewpoint of her as a goddess altogether. I was like, okay, then we're just not going to talk about how we get little children into a cult and make them blind. We're just not going to.
So okay, all the gods are bad. But to be fair, she did not explicitly tell them to do that. You know, like people do all kinds of crazy, terrible stuff in the name of religion. And like, no one has to come down from heaven and explicitly tell them to do it. You know, humans are very capable of being terrible to each other all on their own and making up their own terrible shit. But yeah, all the gods they're all, you know,
assholes.
They have their own,
everyone has their own objective. I'll just say this. Everyone has their own objective. But Acacia has saved our ass like many times at this point, like of our heroes.
Fair.
But anyway, so going into Lion, Septimus is on a different team than like everybody else at this point, except for Ygritte.
As he does. Yeah. Oh, Ygritte.
She's a peach. Yeah, she's great.
It's going off in a completely different direction. So thank you for telling us everything that you could tell us so far. Rank which of the books, I'm curious, so far has been your favorite? Just telling Carissa which ones of yours, because I have a really hard time, honestly. If I had to rank them, what would you think of like favorites? Like,
that's difficult because I really like Songbird. Like I really liked how it was. And that may be because I had recently read Dante's Inferno. So then going into Songbird, it was very much, you know, a play off of that. So, and I'm like, I was an English teacher. I went to school for literature. So I was like nerding out about that. I was like, I know what ring this is. And so I really did like that element that you tied into that one. So that was probably my favorite, like linguistically, my favorite. Probably in terms of like just action packed was Serpent, just because it was very Hunger Games, and I loved Hunger Games when I was a kid, and it was like Hunger Games on crack essentially with these vampires. So I loved the Kajari essentially. So I don't know, it would be between those two. They're completely different reasonings.
Oh, we love Six Scorched Roses too. I feel like that was its own.
We did.
There was such like a short Bella, and I always tell people if they're like unsure if they want to go into this world or what they're getting themselves into, I feel like that is such like a good one to start with because it's not super long, but you'll know right away if like your style of writing is going to be the one that's like a good one. And Vale and Lilith's story, I just love it. I just love Lilith so much. I like that she's an older FMC. I don't know. I feel like all the duologies you've released so far. That's one actually question I had for you for the Bloodborne duet. What I like so much is that you have female main characters POV in the first book always, and then you transition in book 2 to both of their perspectives. Are you doing that again with Bloodborne?
Yes, that is the plan. I enjoy it because it lets me kind of have my cake and eat it too, where like for one book we get the kind of mysterious, like, what's he thinking, like what's going on, and then like in Serpent it couldn't be dual POV, obviously, like you just can't, because there's always a twist or some information, like you can't know. But then I love being able to get that second POV in the second book, so that way we're also getting to know him more intimately as well, like in the second part of the duology.
It's going to be interesting because I feel like for Misha, we knew her first because of the first duology. So like seeing her lead the next book in Songbird like made logical sense. And now we're getting a new female main character. So like we're going to follow her story, and then we'll get both their POVs. But that's going to be, I'm excited to read all of that and like kind of get into that more and see kind of where all that dynamic, it'll be interesting to see all that layout. Because I feel like we got Misha in 2 books before she got her own book. We got like more of her dynamic, and like mentions of her. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that lines up for the next release for book 5.
I hope that you like it once it's here.
Oh, we will. There's no doubt. No doubt. Okay, so this question is completely unrelated to that. So thank you for that. We won't have any more questions about the more recent book. So I wanted to ask, since you're a working mother like us, what impact has that had on your career as a writer? I know you mentioned that you wish you had taken more time postpartum. What has that experience been like for you, and how has that impacted your career and kind of what you think about it before you were a parent to now?
Gosh, complicated question. The timing was ideal, in some ways, but also a little bit surreal, because it was like, so I published Ashes and Slaying like within a month of each other. And it was like right before I was due. So like so when you're self-published, there's not very much time in between, like you finish a book and like you're in charge of editing and everything, like you work with the editors and everything is very quick. And then once a book is ready, you press a button and it's available in like 48 hours. Unlike traditional publishing where like I finished Lion.
Oh, wow.
Like I finished drafting Lion, like 2 months ago now, and that book is coming out in August of next year. Like I finished drafting it 13 months before it's coming out.
Yeah.
So it was like I couldn't be late because I was having a baby. Like I couldn't delay because like I had to finish. So I got those books out, had my child and everything. And that was like kind of when everything blew up, like right when I was like, giving birth and having a kid and all that stuff. I didn't really take too much of a maternity leave because I had like Serpent was getting re-released and I had to go through copy edits again. And there's just like a lot of work that happens with these re-releases behind the scenes. And then it was something like my son was born in the summer. He was born in June. And then like Songbird was originally supposed to be due like January 1st, like right after the holidays. And it was like I had done nothing, like I'm starting from zero because I was like crunching to finish the previous books, like up until I had him. I definitely felt like my brain is like mushier than it once was. And I felt like it took like a solid year. Like my agent and I have joked about how like Lion was actually a very easy book to write. Both Songbird and Fallen, I made like extensive rewrites and revisions and stuff like that. Songbird, especially, like Fallen was easier compared to Songbird. And I really think it's because like it takes like 16 months for your brain to like be normal again. And this is like the first book I've written like completely in that window. That's my theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest adjustment.
Science supports that theory.
That sounds like science to me. My lived experience supports it for sure. It's also hard to like, I used to work 7 to 7, like I had very long work days. And now, of course, I don't do that. My work day is more like 9 to 3-ish. So that's been like the biggest adjustment, is having to like scale back on like the amount of time that I have, and a lot more to juggle. I have a lot of respect for authors who do this with a day job, like with kids. Like I don't, like I think I would not be able, like if I had had kids like before I quit my day job, I don't know if I would be here right now. Like I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That tracks.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. And people don't realize like
but yeah.
Yeah, it's the best work, but like you have even if you have free time, it's not free time when there's a kid around. Like you have to focus on them. Whatever they're doing, you have to either focus on them, you have to play with them. Depending on the age group, it's imaginative play, which is a lot of work, imaginative play. And just, it's draining, but it's the best kind of draining because, you have this own little human, but, it's not as much time that you can dedicate to work or passions.
I always, sometimes I meet people who are like surprised that I have childcare. Like they're always like, well, don't you just like, apparently a person who's never met a toddler before, it's just like, oh, well, can't you just like eat, like just write a little like when they're in, I'm like, no, like I can't like mind a toddler and also write novels at the same time. Like that may, I mean,
very unrealistic.
I'll say there are probably people who do it. And if you are listening and you are one of them, like Godspeed to you. I have ultimate admiration for you, but I am not one.
So when I first had my daughter, I actually worked from home and took care of her. And it was like, I love that time that I had with her, but I was like drowning in my own island. I wouldn't recommend it for a lot of reasons, just because like I was working around the clock because I didn't get my actual work done from the time when she was awake. So I had to stay up late to get that done. It was a whole lot of stuff. And I can't even imagine and that's just like, standard working. But when you're an author, you literally have to immerse yourself back into your world. I feel like it's kind of like a mind switch that you have to get into and really focus. And yeah, if you've ever met a toddler, focus is not they have the attention span of like a goldfish at that age. So you can't focus around them.
Yeah. And you're making art, too. And it's like anything creative, I feel like if you're really truly doing something creative, it's to have your full attention for it to be successful. So I'm not saying that it can't be done, because it can be. I'm sure there are plenty that can do this. I am also a person that cannot. I need to have like truly dedicated time of like, hey, and I'll communicate that, with my husband, who I have help from. But, if I'm trying to work on the weekend and whatever, I'll let him know like, hey, I am going to exclusively be working on this for right now. Exclusively working on this. I can't do all the things. I can try. I would struggle so hard.
So you mentioned that when you write at a coffee shop. So what is your go-to coffee order?
Oh, right now it's always iced coffee, even in the middle of winter, because I'm a New England girl and that's what we do. Walk around with iced coffee like through the snow. It's coffee with oat milk and a little bit of caramel. And my son, my 2-year-old now like knows my like Dunkin' order because of the number of times that we go through the Dunkin' drive-thru. He's always like, oh, milk 2 caramel. And then like brings me, he likes to play coffee shop. So yeah, that's my coffee order.
Oh, I love that.
That's so funny. What about a cocktail order?
Oh, I'm usually a wine girl, like a red wine.
Okay.
I like it. It's very O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And we've had a wine drink for a serpent episode, I believe, because of all the blood.
Right.
We've had a red wine drink.
Yeah. We do a drink of the episode every single episode. So every episode that we've covered in a deep dive and every episode that we'll cover has its own drink. So that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I feel like it'd be interesting to know. On that note, like, what's your favorite comfort food and like favorite season of the year?
Oh, favorite comfort food. I don't know. I feel weird to describe this as comfort food. I love a charcuterie board. Like, you asked me my favorite food, maybe because we were just talking about Cocktails? Yeah,
dinner?
I was just like, the number of times I do like charcuterie board dinner, like, let's not even talk about it. Favorite time of the year?
I love a good girl dinner.
Yeah. Adult Lunchables, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Favorite time of the year? I mean, I like summer. I love sitting outside, but it might be fall. I live in New England. I live in Rhode Island. It's like just so beautiful, like around this time of year, not October. So maybe fall. I'll be a basic bitch and say fall.
Hey, we totally
love
are.
that.
I wish.
I mean, we live in Florida, so our fall, we have like these
sad fall.
invasive tree species that like turn yellow and then pink, and that's our fall. We don't get like actual turning of the leaves.
No.
I don't even know what these trees are called, but like they're everywhere.
Sounds fun.
So definitely jealous.
We don't get fall.
The standard.
No,
it's hot. That's what it is.
In hurricane season. No.
Yeah, we have
much rather have
season.
your fall. Yeah. Our Halloween is like dripping with sweat. There's nothing cold or like anything like that. Yeah, for Halloween here. But Florida does do it up. We have like Halloween horror nights. We have like all these like activities and different things you can go to. And I think it's because we're trying to overcompensate for the fact that we don't have the season. So we just have like tons of things to do that are fall related. Because they're like, here, try that, make yourself feel better. Like that we don't have the real season.
I mean, that works.
Things. It does, yeah. We totally do it all.
And our last question is, what are you currently reading?
I am currently reading Tourist Season by Brynne Weaver because I am doing an event with her, in a couple of weeks as of recording in Boston. So I am very excited to meet her in person. And I'm still at like the very, very beginning of the book.
Amazing.
I'm embarrassed to say, but what I've read so far, I love. It's actually my first Brynne Weaver book, and I've heard that they're amazing. So I'm loving it so far.
They are.
She's amazing.
Absolutely.
We interviewed
and we're
her.
Jealous.
Yeah. Super.
We just interviewed her. I mean, it'll be when this episode airs, it'd be like a month, but we just interviewed her and we talked to her about tour season and how you guys had an event coming up together. But we are very jealous because tour season isn't out yet as of right now.
As of this recording, it's not out yet. By the time this airs, it will.
I'll say it's soon. It's very soon, right? Because it's soon.
It's soon.
Well, it's great. It's great so far.
September 23rd. Not that I'm counting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her highly recommend going back. Yeah.
And her other ones, her other series.
Yeah, I have to.
Or listen to them.
It's actually my first. It's my first dark rom-com. Like I've never read any of this genre before with the, dark rom-com. So, like I haven't read that Navessa Allen book. Yeah, I haven't read
Lights
that
Out.
one.
Lights Out.
Either. So this is me like dipping my toes into the subgenre for the first time.
It's a good toe dipper, I would say, in terms of like dark romance, dark romantic comedy. Is definitely an easy to get into book. So if you love this book, definitely recommend going back and doing the Ruinous Love trilogy, like her past books. So, and if you listen to audiobooks,
that's good to know. Okay, that's great.
They're really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her audiobooks for the previous trilogy are great. And each one's standalone. So you don't necessarily have to, I mean, you can read them collectively, but like the first one, Butcher and Blackbird, you could read it by itself and it's wrapped up nicely in that book. But anyway, now that we've talked about that, can you tell that we've covered her books? I don't know if you can tell. We know a little bit about them. Well, thank you, Carissa, for being on the show. This is truly like a full circle moment for Michelle and I. We, said at the beginning that we started our podcast basically off of Serpent. It was such I'll be honest, I had my son and I was in a postpartum experience when I was reading Serpent, and reading Oraya's story and the way that it just fully took me out of kind of the funk you're in the postpartum phase. And moms listening to this will know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that. I loved it so much. I thought it was so different. I thought it was very adult and unique and just such a great story. I love that Crowns of Nyaxia is continuing, even if you don't want to ever do 8 books again. We get it. But I think that we're just so thankful for you to come to our little corner of the internet and spend some time with us and be willing to participate in this interview tonight. So thank you so much for being willing to come on.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's such an honor that it connected with you and that it ultimately like brought you guys together in this project and everything. It's truly surreal. Kind of like as we were saying about fan art and everything. It's like to have inspired anyone with my work to create and go on to create something like this show and branch out into other books and everything. Like that's really, really incredible and surreal. So it is such an honor, and it was so much fun to be here with you guys today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carissa, for joining us tonight. We had so much fun talking about your series, your favorite characters, your thought process, doing a little millennial dive into the past. And it was just such a pleasure and such an honor to talk to you about your new book and potentials of what we may see in the next duology.
Yeah, and Daughter of No Worlds re-releasing and all that stuff. Like, we are just really, really excited for you and so unbelievably excited that we had the opportunity to talk to you. We still believe that this series is ridiculously underhyped. And we hope more of you, if you at this point still haven't read this series, get on board, y'all. What's going on? Let's get it going. Where have we been? But yeah, thank you, Carissa. Thank you so much for being here. And we had a wonderful time. We hope you'll come back and join us again. And keep an eye on your mail. We might be sending some stuff your way. So thanks for coming on. Now it's time, Michelle, for some mystery Q&A. And I've got a question for you. Miss Taylor Swift has taken over the internet in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, right? Mm-hmm. So are you a Swiftie?
No, I'm not. I respect her craft for sure. Mm-hmm. I liked her Red album and I liked Folklore. And just since then, things seem kind of, I like her lyrics, but just nothing really gets me going, you know? It's nice to listen to in the car. Am I going to go to a concert to see her? No. But do I respect her as an artist and an individual? Yeah, absolutely. My daughter loves her. So she will listen to, was it Blank Space? She loves that one. And she likes the music video, oddly enough. And some of her other songs. So I do listen to her a lot more often just because my daughter will ask to listen to her, which I'm okay with. What about you?
Let me say it kind of similarly. Like, I love what she has done in the name of like women everywhere and like standing up for herself and just like not taking any shit and doing what she wants to do and not caring really about criticism and kind of owning that. I have a lot of respect for that. I am more of like a emo / sleep token / I would probably be at a rock show type music listener, but also I'll listen to anything. I've listened to a couple of her songs. Opalite to me like screams that she's talking to Rebecca Yarros on her new album. So I think that what I like about Taylor Swift is that she is very, very aware of her fans. I love that she leaves Easter eggs. I like how creative she is with her fan base and how she's totally embraced that. And will I be watching her 6-part series when it comes out? Yeah, you bet your ass I will. But am I like a diehard Swiftie? I would not say so. If I got invited to go to an Eras concert, I would definitely go. Am I getting a tattoo anytime soon? No, not doing that. But I would say like middle of the road. I'm not a fan. Let's say that. I'm a fan. Okay. Am I a Swiftie? I don't think so. But I am a fan. Does that make me a Swiftie? I think I'd have to ask like a Swiftie if they would think that I joined that camp. But I absolutely have no negative things to say. It's all love. Like, want her to be super successful. Love to see it. I'm here for it. I think it's great. I also oddly kind of like that all these guys in the NFL, like who watch, are all like pissed off because she shows up, and I'm like, she's boosting your ratings. Like, why are we upset at her? Like, what?
Right.
Hello.
There's now like, a fan base that did not exist before.
Correct.
Watching. So
yeah, I mean, you can't get mad at the fact that she's just a force to be reckoned with. And I have absolutely nothing but positive things to say about that. So if that makes us Swifties, I feel like that checks the box. But as far as like running to go, it's not like a book, a midnight book release of Brimstone, for example, where we're like waiting to get that, So it's just a little bit different. But I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. How about that? I'm definitely a fan of hers. Don't know if I'm a Swiftie. We'll leave it at that. Fair. All right. What about you?
That's fair. Okay. My question is, what is one of the most unhinged things your preschooler has said? Because we know 3 4s and 5s. That's an unhinged time.
Damn. He said a lot of stuff where I was like, oh, that's not good. Probably mimicking me in my passionate discord about other fellow drivers on the road. I have made a comment or two, not paying attention that I'm making a comment or two, and my son has repeated said comments immediately after that. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like he'll forget that this was said. No. A day later, 2 days later, somebody will be in front of us driving and he'll yell out the thing that I yelled out. And I'm like, well, a lesson has been learned. So
people need to drive better in Orlando. Do we blame him?
Well, no, we do not.
If you're from Orlando, you know. Yeah. It's awful over here. Yeah. Especially in the I-4. It's just...
So he has said, move it or similar. Okay. So we'll leave it at that.
Oh,
get out of the way.
High-pitched little voice.
Or similar. Yeah. What about you?
Okay. So the reason why I asked this question is because as I was putting my daughter to sleep tonight, she said something really strange. And she's at the age where she's like, and it's spooky season, so she likes horror type things just because she sees like masks and stuff at the stores and whatever, and she has questions and whatnot. So she's like, Mommy, we're gonna have to get rid of all my dolls. I'm like, why? And she's like, well, when you play with them and then when you stop playing with them, maybe they could move on their own. I'm like, girl, which one? Which one are we burning? You can't just drop that. And are we getting rid of all of them? Is the whole house gonna burn? I honestly at this point, it's like, and like I'm trying to keep like a straight face. I'm like, who told you that happened? She's like, no one told me. I'm like, okay. So burning them all. That is.
Well, I immediately thought of Toy Story, right? So maybe it's just like a Bo Peep type situation. Like maybe that's what's happening. I'm trying to be positive here. Of course. Yeah. Maybe it's like a Bo Peep situation.
So much. Like the porcelain dolls, and she has some that like, they're like they're not American Girl dolls. They're like the Target version of American Girl dolls. But so their eyes are glassy. I hate dolls so much. And I have a girl, so naturally she has a shit ton of them. So they will all be burned soon.
We have a boy on the way, so I feel like that's going to help with that balance. So you're going to be all right. Yeah.
Hopefully not creepy ass shit coming out of his mouth. I don't know.
Yeah. What's interesting too is like at the ages is like it goes beyond. So first they're repeating, and then they're saying things on their own, which is the difference. So like the thing with my son is now he knows what he's saying to the drivers, and he's saying it anyway because he's also mad at said driver, and now he's like, oh, that's what we say to the driver that we're mad at. Let's go. Get out of the way. The light is green.
That's a big one.
That sort of thing.
The light is green.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, bud, the light is green. Oh, she's okay.
You tell him.
Yeah. And then for you, she's also like realizing her world. So it's kind of this like, you're kind of proud in a way because it's like developmental, but then you're also like horrified at the same time. Oh, no, you're like, no, I'm out. Yeah, I'm out.
No, should not be a world that should be recognized. I'm so sorry. Like, no, this is not. No.
Okay. All right.
Imagination needs to go away. Once an imaginary friend pops up, nope, we're done. Burn the whole thing to the ground.
Okay. Yeah, in your house, which if you guys haven't seen, Michelle did a post about how her house was seemingly haunted when she purchased it. That's a story for another time. If you go on our Instagram, you can find the post about this. But
and tell us what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, tell us what you think.
The house has been properly cleansed since.
Yeah, we've saged. It's been saged.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But we don't want to bring those things back. Now, before I wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Right. So since we're on a little thrilling note, next week we're going to dive into our thriller, which is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And we're looking forward to dissecting this novel with you. A little spooky. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a good one.
It's a nice switch up. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can visit our website at bookclubafterdark.co to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.